Well, it's time now for perspective. Schools across the world struggle with large class sizes, and within those classes, students who find it hard to make the most of their lessons. What then if there was a magic bullet that could improve students' ability to engage with their work and, in turn, improve their happiness levels and educational attainment? Well, I'm joined on set now by Anantha Duraiappah, Director of the UNESCO Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development. Thank you very much indeed for coming on to speak to us here at France 24. Could you start by telling us what it is you're in Paris for? Well,
as you know, UNESCO has its, every 2 years, its huge general conference. So this year they're having theirs. So it's a collection of all the countries from around the world, talk about UNESCO's programs. And I'm reporting on what the Institute has done over the last 2 years.
And what are the most interesting, important things the Institute's been working on recently?
Well, as you had mentioned earlier in your introduction, you're talking a little bit about the anxiety, the stress, the large classrooms. And in India, which, you know, the country of that immense size, we have about 300 million kids in K-12.
What is K-12 for those of us not familiar?
So this is kids from kindergarten to grade 12, and then just before they go into universities. So pretty much the school life period. And you know, one of the things that we were really surprised was a 2015 WHO report that emerged, and it sort of said just for India, but it was a worldwide phenomenon. And in India itself, 25% of kids between the age of 13 to 15 have some form of mental illness, depression, anxiety. And that's large. That's large numbers. And you know, when you think about it, 13 to 15, they should be enjoying life, running around, playing and stuff. And here they are, all forms of anxiety.
And what are the root causes of this anxiety, as far as you're aware?
Multiple factors, but the schooling system itself would be one major factor that we think would be a driver. Very exams, assessment driven, very high expectations. The numbers themselves, desperate need to get into universities rather than looking at a plethora of other options, vocational training. So everybody is just fighting to try to get that few spaces at universities, so it creates these high levels of expectation. Now, and the schools are really focused on what we call just focusing on developing the cognitive skills, the knowledge base. And I think what is missing is the emotional intelligence, the emotional resiliency to navigate this new landscape that we are facing. So this is where the Institute has been focusing on.
And the billion-dollar question, how do you develop emotional resilience among school children?
So there's been a lot of research coming out. It's still new, but the early results are very promising. What we call socio-emotional learning. So we make it try to be fun. We take an issue like migration, which is an issue that everybody is concerned about. And then within that, we get children to inquire. So it's not about telling them about something, but from an inquiry process. But within that, we do mindfulness exercises where the kid is able to start learning how to do self-regulation, emotional regulation. It's not about suppression of emotions. I think it's about understanding your emotions and being comfortable with it.
And how easy is it to roll out these sorts of projects across a country as enormous as India?
So here is something which is, many people say is kind of oxymoronic, but we use technology. But again, there's a lot of good research which sort of says if you use the digital medium, design your programs using the latest research from science, you could actually scale this up. So that's what we have at the Institute. We have developed our own platform. It's called Framer Space. Kids can sign on to that and they can experience this particular approach. So we do empathy training as well, because the whole notion of understanding the other, and then compassion is about doing something about it. So we want children to become active agents.
And there would be some people who say that relying too heavily on digital technologies runs the risk of actually alienating children from each other, from their parents, from wider society. Is that something that you've experienced or not at all?
Yes and no. So we are aware of that problem. So in a way, recently at UNESCO at the conference, we invited a company from Finland called Hatch, and they were showing us games where parents and kids can communicate when they are away from each other through games. We use a lot of digital games. Games have always been fun and playing, but trying to make a good use of that. But what I would warn and caution is not just complete digitization. It is a good balance between face-to-face as well as using some of the latest digital tools.
Thank you so much for coming in to speak to us here on France 24. Anantha Duraiappah, a director of the UNESCO Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development in New Delhi. Thank you.
Thank you very much.